Thanks. Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to, I think, our third level up with Glific. During these webinars, what we do is we tell you about new features, new ways in which you can improve your chatbot program, right? And today we're going to go through a feature called Start Somebody Else in a Flow. Before that, I'm just going to throw up a quick poll, which I'd like you to answer to help me understand why you're here and how you ended up kind of joining. So just take a minute to fill that out. It should be up on your screen now. I'll wait until I have responses from everyone that's not joined. Can everyone see the poll? Someone could confirm.
I'm not able to see as of now.
I can see.
I think KP, that's because you're also host.
Okay.
Thanks, Swarupa. Thanks, one. Waiting for like 3 more of you. Folks who just joined, can you confirm that there's a poll up on your screen? So I think that's Saurav and I don't know who this is. Your name is Chris. Waiting for like 2 more people. Okay. So I will then go ahead. Thank you. Let me just see the results of the poll. Just give me a second. So most of you have heard about 4 out of you are saying that you've heard about and ended up registering for this session through some other channel. So could you, whoever selected other, could you just quickly tell us what that channel was? I don't know if everyone can hear me clearly.
We are getting some responses on chat now.
Oh,
Thank you, Tushar, Soumya, and Sarupa. Others, can you also please let us know where did you hear about the webinar?
oh. In the meantime, I'll just check what you all have typed. Okay. So we can go ahead just with regard to your responses on what you're looking to learn here today. I noticed someone said they're looking to understand Jugal Gandhi and its costs. We won't be covering that today. Kind of just flagging that in the beginning. Do stay on and kind of learn about this feature. And if you want to chat about Jugal Gandhi, you can ping us on Discord and we'll talk to you about it there. Right,
We
whoever
will
that's
just cover a brief on what we are doing going ahead towards the end, but the whole session is not majorly about it.
Yeah.
Just want to highlight.
Thanks, Kate. So who was that? Who wanted to know about the Jugal Gandhi integration?
It's me, Kamlakar.
Okay. Okay. So Kamlakar, we'll just kind of introduce the fact that that's done towards the end of the call, but we won't discuss that in detail. Um, and with that, thank you for kind of filling up the poll, and we can get started. I'm going to share my screen. Second. Okay, so uh, let me present my screen. Let me know that all of you can see it full screen.
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Thanks. Okay. So today we're going to be talking about this feature. And before we kind of get started, I'd like a few of you to just share a little bit about your program. So you can put it in the chat box, and KP can maybe read it out for us. Sorry, you can just put in the chat box, or you can unmute and tell us about your programs, just broadly these things, right? So what sector, what activity, what stakeholders. Um, and we'll give this maybe 2 minutes tops. Going back to the chat box. Thanks, Tushar. Anyone else wants to unmute and just describe their program briefly? Because I'll be kind of.
Abhishek, hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are, Saurabh. Hi.
Hi. So, I'm from Quest Alliance, right? And we are working on the ICKI chatbot that we have been working with, which is basically a course where we are introducing computer science concepts to students. So that is one part of it. And we have already we had done a pilot. Now, from there, we want to move on some advanced things where make sure that our data is set up correctly. We can have assignments submitted. Also, we are looking to use the chatbot as a support platform for our other tools that we use. For example, we have our Quest app, so we want to have the chatbot to sort of complement that, so that people can ask how to do a certain thing or submit assignment or anything like that.
Thanks, Saurabh. And who are all of the people involved in this program? Like, so there are the students definitely. Who are the other stakeholders?
So other stakeholders would be teachers, I think mostly. For example, right now we are looking, we want to use it for teachers and also our internal team, because we run multiple programs. So we are just trying to look how we can use the chatbot across these programs so that we can streamline our processes.
Got it. Got it. Thanks, Saurabh. Anyone else? Sarupa has shared on chat. So that's KEF. Great. And we have something from Antarang. I hope everyone's reading that so that you know a little bit about who's on the call. And also because I'll be kind of referencing some of these things later, right? So I'll go back to the deck and you can see my screen again. So this is what we're going to cover today, right? First, we're going to talk about how our chatbots are today. Then we'll talk about what this feature enables. Then we'll show you how to use the feature right now. And then we'll discuss kind of next steps from here, right? And so to begin, how our chatbots work today, right? So this is the NGO. We set up a certain structure or logic, and we leverage that logic on Glific to interact with our NGOs, right? So the logic is predetermined, so are the flows, right? The journeys that our users take are predetermined by the NGO, right? And using that, we're able to kind of automate a lot of conversations and hit scale, right? Now, beyond that, given the example shared, right? It's rarely just the student or just the teacher that you are connecting with. You have an actual program that's behind your chatbot program, right? Your real co-program of your organization. And that involves other people. That involves, in the cases over here, since most organizations are NGOs, it will involve your teacher, it will involve your student, it may involve a headmaster, it may involve your block officer, right? In the case of Digital Green, if Kamlakar is still on the call, it will involve your field worker and it will involve the farmer, right? So what's actually happening right now is that we have centralized communication, right, to hit scale, which is to say that the NGO and uses Glyphic to connect, to speak directly to whoever the beneficiary is, either it's your farmer or your student or it's your teacher, right? But what's actually happening on the ground is that these two are working with each other. But these two have no communication connected to this, right? They have only interpersonal communication. And so what's lost here is that the implementation and the communication are not linked. Your communication is centralized, your implementation is not centralized, right? Because implementation, you have more folks who are going and doing things. They may do things differently at a different pace, right? Um, just to leverage this in an example, if you're running an education program, different teachers may complete the curriculum at different times, right? But you may have your Glific chatbot could have a fixed schedule key, once a week at this time, this quiz or this questionnaire or this activity is definitely going to go. But if the teacher has not taught the child what is required before that activity goes out, then it's a moot point, right? The maximum you can do is maybe make a counter in your flow and see if the child has done a previous activity, can they do the next? But there's no power with the teacher to help the kid out. Similarly, if a kid has a question, right, it would go to Glyphic, and Glyphic can alert staff who are using Glyphic, but Glyphic cannot directly alert the teacher, right? That's an extra step for you all to do. Is this clear to everyone? Like, can we agree, or if you want to disagree, of course, please open to that. Or any thoughts you want to share? I can see the chat. So
There are no questions or messages on chat.
okay. Hope nothing's unclear over here. And with that, I'll go ahead, right? And what this feature, right, start somebody else in a flow, what it enables is for these two people to talk to each other, right? Or maybe more than two people to talk to each other using Glyphic, right? So the flows, the logic, the content, all of that is predetermined. But instead of the power and kind of the control being with you, you're giving the control to your end users, right? So if a teacher finishes a quiz at a particular time, the teacher can choose to trigger that quiz. I mean, if a teacher finishes teaching a topic at a particular time, the teacher can trigger that quiz for the child, right? If a child has a doubt, the child can kind of just say, I have a doubt, and that message can go directly to the teacher instead of it going to a staff member, right? Because, I mean, we have very few staff members on Glyphic, right? But we have many teachers on the ground, or we have many field workers on the ground. So if a student has a doubt, ideally the field worker should know and be able to address it. So that's what this flow makes possible. Um, are there any questions, or is there any lack of clarity at this point? I'll wait for 30 seconds. If not, I'll go ahead.
I'm not able to understand what is decentralized control of flows means. Like, from where you are trying to decentralize it, how this will impact the user experience.
Right. So, who is this?
Tushar from Bhumi.
Okay. So currently, if Bhumi has a chatbot, Bhumi has created a flow. That flow will run on a fixed schedule, right? There's no
Correct.
input from your implementation team that can help decide what needs to go out when, right?
Mm-hmm.
But your implementation team is the one on the ground who maybe knows and whose input would be more valuable in terms of what should go out to whom when.
Mhm.
right? So when
Right.
I'm saying decentralization, I'm saying they then like we are moving the power from the NGO with Glific to the implementer with Glific, or from the NGO with Glific to your beneficiary with Glific. They can decide and they can communicate with each other, right?
Okay.
What has to happen. Is that helpful?
Not completely, but yeah, I got some idea.
When I demo the flow, maybe kind of that will give you a
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
clearer idea, right?
Okay, okay.
Um,
Go ahead.
Anyone else? Anything else?
Yeah, hi. So I'm Asim from Landahan, India. So just wanted
Hi.
to clarify that. I mean, we have created the flows, all kinds of flows, and now the teacher has I mean, the chance to initiate whatever flows as per its requirement to the students. And if students have any questions on the flows, then he can directly contact the teacher from WhatsApp or like what? Uh,
So what it could look like is that the child asks a question that's out of the box, that's not in our current flow, right? So in our mind, we've designed our flow. Maybe it just says, "Hey, go ask your teacher." But now instead of it saying, "Hey, go ask your teacher," it will say, "Great, we've sent this question to your teacher, right? And she'll solve it for you." So what
okay.
will happen is you understood, right?
Yes, yes, yes. No.
Yeah. So that's the idea. And so with that, maybe we can, so we've kind of covered those examples, right? But let me go through it in more detail a little bit. One is this case, right? Where um, you want your teacher to be able to, or your field worker to be able to trigger, like start a certain flow for a user. So on the field, if it's maternal health, maybe a field worker's gone and checked in with a pregnant mother, right? And the field worker then later that week wants to start a flow for the pregnant mother to just check in with her, right? How are you doing? So the field worker can send a keyword to start their own flow. And in that, they can choose to say, now start this flow for this month, right? So that's another possibility. And I think we'll stick with those for now and we'll go into the flow demo. Then I suppose you all will have lots of questions and we can dive deeper into that. Yeah. So how do you use this feature? Let me just go to my Glyphic instance. Um, so this is the Glyphic instance. I will just first show you. So I'm just going to show you a demo node directly. I mean, a demo flow directly. And using this, we'll kind of leverage the discussion going forward, right? So in this kind of demo flow, the idea is that we are a school. I mean, we are an NGO that's kind of working with art. So this flow will go out to the art teacher, right? Or the art volunteer. And it'll say, which activity do you want to start with your students today, right? And there are two options here. One is sunlight art and one is bindi art. These are two art activities, right? Then the art teacher can respond saying sunlight or bindi art. And based on that, we will reach the start somebody else in a flow node, right? So what does this node look like? First, you have to, of course, just go to your node and select, right? So you can start somebody else in a flow. Once that comes up, over here, currently, there's only one option, select your recipients manually. And over here, I've selected a collection. So essentially, I picked a collection of, so in this case, we're assuming that that teacher has one class. So this is that class, right? This is that group of kids that the teacher wants to start the flow for. And then which flow do you want to start for the child? So if the teacher has selected sunlight, I'm starting the sunlight activity flow. If the teacher is selected bindi, I'm starting the bindi activity flow for the same collection. Is everyone with me on that so far?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. And then so essentially, once they do that, it'll say, great, your students have received whatever activity you selected, flow. Okay. And over here, I have the flow. So this is the sunlight flow, right? Which is basically just sending them a video on how to do sunlight art. And this is the bindi flow, which is sending them a video on how to do bindi art, right? So let's just try this out and see kind of how it works, right? So say now currently in this group, I've put like 3 people who are all on the call. So we should be able to check their chats and see that it's working, right? So I'm going, sorry. Cancel that. Okay. So hello, which activity do you want to start with the students today? So I'm going to select sunlight art. The preview is a little glitchy. Okay, yeah. So hello, which activity do you want to start today? Sunlight art, and then it says, great, your students have received the sunlight art video, right? Now let's just go to my chat. And what we can see here. Right, so it says, hello, Abhishek, give us a hi to receive your art activity for today. That's just the way I structured the flow. Because I didn't have any template messages ready, so I had to use this template message. Similarly, he's got this reply, okay. And similarly, Krishna has got the same thing. The keyword over here is Ola. So I mean, not the keyword, the response, the expected response. I'll just do that from my check the chat. 1 second. Okay. So right, so I said that and I got my art activity. And that's basically that's the feature, right? So what this has enabled us to do is that it's enabled the teacher to decide what activity needs to go out for the student, right? And based on whatever they pick, that will go out to the student. And that's the entire kind of flow. So now I'm sure you all will have questions around this. So I'm going to just stop sharing and we'll open for questions.
Yeah, so one question. So
Hmm.
for the teacher to start his flow, he will have to just enter the keyword for his flow, right? I mean, there is no option for.
Yeah, I mean, you can, if you've designed a flow previously, right, that's going out to the teacher, then that can also enter into this. Assume you're connecting with the teacher separately on some other, you have some other flows, you can work it in there also. Right now,
Okay.
I've just done it.
Yes.
Anyone else? Anything else? Just want to know if you all are thinking of this in terms of your use case, right?
Yeah, that is what I was thinking also. So could you like explain some more use case specifically towards volunteering communication? So suppose we are having an event, we want to communicate something and we want them to be registered into specific event flows. So let's say if something is happening in Delhi, we want that information to come into Delhi flow, right? But it starts from a centralized flow where Delhi implementer would be there, who would be sending out some other messages to those people who are registered. So can you explain some use case in that? Because I'm trying to see how we can implement this into a new like flows.
Right. So you have your volunteering program managers in every state,
Yeah,
and you have your volunteers in every state,
correct.
right?
Right.
And you want to start flows for your volunteers, and
Hmm.
you want to give that power to your volunteer manager, right?
Right.
Right. So it would be something like this, right? So let's assume. So what are all of the processes? Or what are all of the kinds of communication you have with a volunteer in a particular school?
So there are two, three types of. So the first phase usually involves registering, right? Registering, and then second phase requires about event description. So let's say if event is happening there, event is happening at this time, notifications. If it is an online event, then meetings, right? So all
Yeah.
these things. Third requires maybe if the event is because of for shelter homes people students, so they need to be carried, right? So their bus travel details, their event details, who is the driver, all this information first communicated to the volunteer managers, then to the uh, students itself. That is how it is working out.
Right, right. So for part two, right,
Mhm.
you can use this same concept which I've just demoed, right? Which is
Mhm.
that your volunteer manager decides when to send the note. After they've registered, your volunteer manager has everything ready. They can trigger the flow that shares all of the details, right?
Right.
Uh, Similarly, if you want to send them the bus details and everything, that's also possible. It'll be the same thing, but maybe you'll have to do like a Google Sheet integration along with that so that the relevant person gets the relevant details, right?
Correct.
Um,
Correct. Correct.
all this is doing is if it's a thing about when the communication should go out and who should make the effort of sending out that communication, right?
Mhm.
Those two things can be overcome if you want the when to be decided by your program manager, and if you want the effort of kind of starting that flow to become the program manager's responsibility, right? If you think
Right.
they are
Right.
better
Right.
placed to do that.
Uh, like is
Yeah.
Glyphic documentation also updated with this new feature?
Yes, this is there in Glific documentation. And if you have any issues with the documentation, please reach out to us since it's our first class.
Sure. Sure. Okay.
Yeah. Anyone else? Any other questions on this? If not, then maybe I can just, yeah, someone's
Abhishek, there
unmuted.
is a question in the chat actually. Soumya has answered
Oh,
it.
let me check. Uh, what is the criteria to check who can trigger the flow? Soumya, could you explain?
So, Abhishek, like the example what you were giving, right? The teachers can trigger the flow for their students.
Yeah.
So, is there like a check from, like some criteria where we can say that only this person can trigger it, other than our team? Is there something like that?
Yes, yes. So what you can do, Samya, is if you put all your teachers in a particular collection. So let me maybe try and show you that here only. We're good on time, so maybe I have time to show this to you here. Um, so this is how the flow is starting right now, right? With the interactive message and all of that. What I would do is, let me just, you see that? That's basically what
Yeah,
you would do. So then only your teachers, assuming my staff collection is just my
correct.
teachers, it'll go to only them. Uh, so even if someone else uses a keyword, starts this
Huh.
flow, if they're not part of this, they'll go somewhere.
Oh, understood.
Is that helpful?
Yeah, and so we will have to, if we have different categories of schools, because we have multiple schools, like it is more than 200.
Yes,
And
yes,
for
yes.
every teacher, if for the teacher to trigger it in her classroom, how do
Hmm.
you think we could use that in that scenario? Because it might be different times, right? That the teacher will be triggering for in each school.
Yes, yes. So it would be done the same way, but it's an excellent question because it kind of leads to something that this currently it will be cumbersome for you to make it so that, so for example, if each teacher has a set of students, right?
Hmm.
And I want to be able to send it to different collections, right? So different sets of students, different teachers want to be able to send things to. I would have to do many split by collections over here, right?
Hmm.
Right? But something that we can do, but we've not currently done because this is just version 1 of the node, is that we can make the teacher simply reference a code, right? So we'll ask the teacher which flow do you want to start and for whom, right? So which activity do you want to start? What is your student group code? Okay.
Hmm.
And then once the teacher enters the student group code, we can reference that and only send it to that group, that collection. We can start the flow only for that collection. You get what I'm saying? So over here, in fact, let me maybe go here and that will make things easier. So that's actually what I wanted to, that was going to be my next step. So there are two more components to the start somebody else in a flow feature, right? So you can see this here, right? Saying send the first 3 letters of the school IDs you'd like to register for exam school notifications, right? And that will be saved as school ID. Then what message do you want to send to your kids? That's saved as the alert. And then we start somebody else in a flow where the school ID is the results at school ID. So it will only go to the school IDs you entered, right?
Okay.
And you can choose what, if it's just like, if you want to start a flow for them, that's fine. If you want to send a message to them, that message can also be called. It can be something like, hey, here's our activity for the day, or hey, do this by 2 p.m. tomorrow, right?
Hmm.
And then the flow will start for them. So this is something that we will build out if you have a use case for it. We know, I mean, from our side, we understand the feature is very powerful, but we'll only build it out further once NGOs come forward with a use case for it, right? And this is one way in which it can become so much more powerful.
Got
Is
it.
that helpful, Samya?
Yeah, so basically, instead of we splitting it, for example, in 200 schools and then doing it, this is
Right.
what you're saying, that school ID equal to at results, whatever that
Correct.
is.
Yeah, that's
Oh.
how we include the conditionality into it. It's better because
Hmm.
currently all I can do here, right, is see if I come here, I can only select, it says select recipients manually, right? So I
Hmm.
can select a collection or I can select a person manually, but that conditionality, that referencing is not there. And
Got
we
it.
want, yeah, ideally y'all would want that to be there if this is a valuable thing for
Hmm.
you, right?
Understood. Yeah, sure.
So,
Thanks,
so
Abhishek.
yeah, yeah. So that's one thing. Anyone else? Any other questions? Or things clear? I'll just wait for a second. I mean, for a few seconds. Okay. So that was one main thing that I wanted to share with you all in terms of what the future development can look like, right? And what we want is for you all to tell us that, hey, this is interesting to us. We want to use it. This is how we want to use it. And then we build out the feature to meet your needs. Um, a second thing that's also going to be, I
Abhishek,
mean, that could be possible. Yeah, go ahead.
sorry, I'm still unclear. So we are creating this flow, right, for the teacher. How will the teacher send it or how will it trigger it to the students? I didn't get, I mean, I'm very confused with.
How is the teacher triggering it for the students?
Yeah, yeah. Or
So
how will,
that's just, go ahead. Sorry, finish. Yeah.
so how, so I have created flow separately for the teachers. Uh,
Hmm.
how will they, next step, what will they do? What do the teachers
You've
exactly?
start, yeah, you've started the flow for the teacher.
Correct?
You've Yeah, you've designed the flow in such a way that it asks them what flow they want to start. So I'll go back here to my thing.
Yeah,
You've designed it in such a way that you're asking them, hey, what flow do you want to start?
got it.
Um,
Yeah,
right? So that's what we did. We asked them which flow do you want
yeah,
to start. So this is
yeah,
essentially each one correlates to a flow, right?
yeah, yeah.
Once they respond, I'm splitting based on their response, and I'm using this node, right? Start somebody else in a flow. In the case where they're responding, hey, I want to start this flow for the child, I've selected that flow, the relevant flow.
So the teacher is not doing anything exactly here.
The
Sorry,
teacher is just saying what they want to do with the child, right? What flow they want to start for the child.
and
So if the
this collection this, okay, the teacher tells me, I understood sunlight out. So this collection, when will I know whom to send? In the
So,
sense,
hmm, go on.
yeah, so I have like 20 students in my class. I'm a teacher of a school. Okay, I tell I want the sunlight art to be sent. Okay, out of the 20, I want only 10 of my students to get. So how will I know this collection has only those 10 students?
Right. So the collections would be predefined, right?
Okay, okay,
That knowledge base would be there with the teacher.
okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay, got it. So they would have already told me like what did my collections look like.
Yeah, yeah. So the teacher, I mean, ideally the collections would be like grades and classrooms, right? So grade 9 classroom A will have a code, something like GR9 CLA. So the teacher will kind of know that's who I want to send it, right? Um,
Okay.
yeah. And then related to that, there was a question from Soumya, which is like, how do I make sure like different folks, like based on the teacher can decide which collection it goes to, right? How do we give that decision making power to the teacher? So for that, we'll have to do a development, if that's useful for you. But it's possible. The teacher will just send that code of the group they want to send it to, and it will go to that group.
Yes. So I just had a question. How there was one option I just saw that select recipients manually. So is it helpful for the teacher also if he doesn't want to send it to collection, but can they select some students and like that to select the
No, so
students?
right. So currently, this option is on the Glyphic interface, right? Which means you will just like, so currently this is irrelevant, like there's only one option, you have to select that, and essentially what we're saying is that we are selecting our collections manually, right? So in the current stage, if we want the teacher to select who it should go to, the flow, it's possible, but it will be a bit complicated, right? I'll have to do like based on who they pick. I'll have to like split the flow later again, like for example, maybe I can try and add it here, right? Give me a second. So something like which flow you want to do, that's done. And maybe before that can be, okay, uh, which which student group do you want to send this? Okay. So now the teacher will first get a message, which student group do you want to send this activity to?
Yes, yes, yes. So the group again has to be predefined. If there is any change in the group, it should be predefined or already.
Yeah,
Then
changes in the group would be done separately, like on their own. Like based on your other flows, right? If some kid like messages on the bot hi, you'll ask them name, grade, school, and then they'll be moved into that name, grade, school collection.
okay, okay, got it,
That
got
you
it.
can do separately. Essentially, it'll be like this, right? Which group do you want to start the activity for? Then based on the response, right? Group A, group B, group C, right? Uh, and then I will kind of, so assume this is just for group A. Okay,
Hmm, hmm.
this little. Okay, so if it's for group A, then my group A will have this entire following flow. Let's move this.
Yes, yes.
You get it? So over here, the collection is this. Assume this collection is group A collection.
Hmm,
You know,
hmm. Yes.
उसके बाद group B के लिए I'll pull another thing and I'll do the same deal, but I'll just change the collection in this.
Got it.
Is that okay?
Yes, yes. And
And
then
so
same. Yeah.
yeah. The problem now is that if you have many groups, it will be so big over here, right? Similarly, if you have many teachers, it will be very big over here. Like you'll have many splits over here, and that can be solved for. But first, let us know that the feature has value for you, then we'll solve for it. That's
Yes.
essentially,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Anyone else? Okay. There's one other super cool thing I wanted to show you all about this feature that can be possible if it's useful for you all. And this is kind of more useful. For example, when you're doing onboarding, if you have field works, I don't know if any health or farming orgs are still on the call. But if you are, this can be useful for you, right? So in your case, often a field worker will go and visit homes, right? So if it's health, they'll go visit a pregnant mother, they'll get their information down, and then they leave. And then what y'all will do is at the back end, y'all will update that pregnant mother's data. Then y'all will start a flow for the pregnant mother. Um, and that's a little cumbersome. So what's actually possible, right, if it's useful for y'all, is that using start someone else in a flow, we can also create new contacts, right? So let me just find it. Yeah. Um, yeah. So you see this? So the idea is we're getting the name, we're getting the age, we're getting the um, confirmation, and then we say thanks, this person's been registered, and then we you see this, we're using start somebody else in a flow and we're creating a new contact, right? So start somebody else in a flow, create a new contact, create child contact, and we're able to essentially create contacts this way with those details, right? So this is another thing that we could explore developing if it's useful for y'all. So you're essentially a field worker can go collect a bunch of information from the pregnant mother and then create a contact for the pregnant mother, right? The mother doesn't need to do any hi hello on the bot. I mean, the mother can do hi hello on the bot, opt in, and then their details are already there, right? Their contact fields are already there, and you can immediately start the journey with that beneficiary, the pregnant mother in this case. So that's another thing that we could look into developing, but that we've not developed right now. That I just wanted to tell you about, right? The ability to create a new contact using this. And that's broadly it. Just wanted to flag two nuances with regard to this feature, right? The first nuance is that so if I am a teacher and I've done this flow, you can see my screen.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
Oh, so if I'm a teacher and I've done this flow, it could be possible. So for example, today, like we started this flow, right? So it started for Arvind, me, and Krishna, out of which I was already in session because I was using the bot yesterday also. So my 24-hour window was open. But Arvind might not have been in session, Krishna might not have been in session. So we always need to make sure that when we start a flow for somebody else, right? When we're doing the starter flow for somebody else, your first message that's going out in that flow so in the quiz that's going out to the child, I have to make sure it's a template message, right? Because if it's not, because if the child is not in session, that message should still go to the child. Is that
Hmm,
okay?
correct.
So
Okay.
that's nuance. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No, no, I was just listening to you.
Someone said, but
Not me.
okay. So that's one. That's the first nuance. The second nuance is this, right? That so you're the teacher and you want to start a quiz for the children, or you want to start a flow for the children, for the students. But maybe the child is also interacting with the bot already, right? Maybe the child is doing some other activity on the bot, which means they have another active flow. So currently, the way it is set up by default is that no matter what the other person is doing, it will interrupt their flow and it will start the flow that you have decided. Is that okay? Uh, and if you don't want that to be the case, then you would go to the advanced settings and you would say skip the contacts who are currently in a flow, right? So if a kid's if a student's currently in a user journey, right, through some learning journey, you don't want to disturb them. You say skip the contacts who are currently, and you can kind of maybe trigger it again later. So that's the second thing.
One doubt,
Hmm.
when we are skipping the contact, how would we know that from who for whom it has been skipped by seeing the chat itself? Or would we get some kind of a notification for it?
So the way you set up the data, so if you're analyzing your data, right,
Mm-hmm.
you'll be able to check it there. Like, so if you have your dashboard, you just have to go to that particular flow and that particular collection and see in basic, like for which people for which people have received the first message, which people have not received the first message. Uh, that's a way of checking.
Instead of that, can we have a future like feature in future maybe that uh sk- like rather than skipping the flow itself, it can start the flow once the person has stopped interacting with the bot itself.
Yeah, yeah. KP or Arvind, are you all noting that?
Yeah.
Great.
Because
Abhishek,
since we are using HSM template, I think this is possible in future maybe to just give them later that message itself.
Yeah, yeah. I think that might be possible now also, but I'm not sure, so I'm not going to say anything. But yeah, that's noted. So we'll include that in the documentation. We're noting that as well, right? If it's currently possible, we'll put that in the document. Not there, right?
Okay.
Yeah,
Abhishek, this is Soumya here.
yeah. So,
On the same lines as what Tushar was mentioning.
hmm,
So the question is that if we click that saying skip the contact, then when will that contact receive this activity or the message?
right. So that's essentially the point, right? That he also made that currently will they or will they not receive it? So currently they'll just be skipped. They won't receive it,
Oh, they'll
right?
completely be skipped.
And
Okay.
right. If we want them to receive it, there might be a way to do that now already. But I'll have to try it out to be sure. It could involve like setting up a background flow, right? Setting up these flows as background flows. That once they're done with their current flow, it goes to them later. Um,
Hmm.
or else we'll figure that out, right? How to do that. We've noted that. And
Got it.
secondly, I think he also made the point that he'd like a notification or some way to know for whom it's not yet started. So that is also noted.
Got it. Yeah, thanks.
Anything else? Anyone else? Okay. So I'll just go ahead. So we finished this. We've covered your questions. Now, kind of our next steps are kind of let's get to V2, right? So what I've shown you is V1, and I've shown you what kind of super useful, powerful things can happen in V2. But we need a use case. Like we won't be developing this unless we have interest from y'all. We developed this initially because we knew it was powerful and we had some use cases then, but that like no one's using it so far. So once you start using it, or if you want to start using it, just reach out to us at either of these two emails. I mean, both of these emails, or ping us on Discord, right? Just outline, how you want to use this feature, and we'll take it from there with you all, and we'll develop it further to suit your needs. Um, yeah. Is that fine with everyone? Can you all just put in the
Yes,
chat?
yes, yes.
Yeah, just put in the chat box if you all kind of plan to use it. Um, so that KP and Arvind already have their eye out. So if you all forget to email us or ping us on Discord, we'll do that. But don't forget, please. Yeah. So I'm not seeing anything on the chat. So I'm going to just go ahead in a second. Yes, um, okay. And the last thing we wanted to do, thanks, Saurabh, uh, for putting that in the chat box. KP,
Abhishek, I
go ahead.
had a use case.
Hmm,
Like
okay.
just wondering.
Hmm.
So, for example, I mean, we have courses right now, like we have multiple programs and multiple courses. We have two lines. So what also happens is, since we are, you know, uh, we are we are accepting a lot of responses from users, and then based on those responses, we save them in variables, and then we uh, that decides the flow where they will move forward. So a lot of times, what happens is, because we have lots of programs and content, sometimes some edge cases happens and maybe they skip a variable or something happens. So in those cases we have a reset flow, for example. So
Hmm.
if you do reset, all your variables get clear. So I was wondering, maybe this can be useful if somebody is stuck. Probably then
Hmm.
someone in the field can trigger that reset flow for them, because we cannot share the keyword for the reset flow, otherwise everyone will do it. So I think that is one use case I'm looking at that may help us.
Yeah, yeah, I have questions around that, but maybe we can discuss that in detail later.
Sure,
But noted, noted. Yeah, let's take that to Discord or maybe on a call or something.
sure.
Like
I'm
I
just
was,
thinking only.
yeah, just go ahead. I'll talk later. Not complete your question.
No, no, I'm saying I'm just thinking in that direction. That's all.
Yeah, yeah. We can talk about that. So, go ahead, Tushar.
Yeah. So I have one use case, but I'm not sure that is it inclined to it. So basically, it's not about like teachers and all. So we have one actually we have multiple different programs, and many of those programs involve volunteers, right? So one program is we provide NGOs tech support, right? Tech support can be website development, analysis of data, right? And sometimes also UI development. And we also have a one program for media for change, which we provide graphic solutions, campaign solution, advertisement solutions to NGOs. What we were thinking is currently we had no system in place that could communicate to those volunteers directly when the request comes. Now we can build that. We can
Yes,
build a system where people can directly communicate to the volunteers, and we don't have to be the driving partner
absolutely.
for that.
I have not highlighted that too much through my example flow, Tushar, but that's spot on, right? You can create a system of support using your on-ground team instead of everything coming on your Glific team, to resolve
Hmm.
queries.
Correct.
That is the power of this, and in that also we'll have to do one development where the person's
Hmm.
question can be referenced. So that your volunteer manager will get a message saying, "Hey, this person asked this question." So this person
Yeah.
with their details ask this question with that the question, and then please get in touch. So that's another
Hmm.
development we have. And similarly, this works for education, this works for health, etc.,
Right.
etc.
Right.
Uh,
Like I would like to
so
like go ahead with this immediately itself. Like this was a problem for us like for a very long time. We were not
wonderful.
able to create some solution for it. I think this is just an immediate solution for it.
Yeah, a great problem to have. We can kind of just reach out to us and we'll figure it out. Very quickly.
Hmm.
I quickly go ahead, just reach out to us with your use cases, right? And we can do this. So one last thing I want to share before I shoot out a poll, right, is that we've released a function called Write to Google Sheets. Probably next month, our level up with Glific will be on this. So now you can both use Google Sheets uh, to be read, right, which will determine which flow goes out to whom and what goes out to whom. And now you can also write, so you can collect information on Google Sheets. Like if folks have queries that you're checking centrally, you can populate all of that into a Google Sheet and just read it there. I'm sorry, you can write it there and then your team can read it. So Antarang is using this in a super cool way where they're collecting user questions to write to Google Sheet. So user has a question, it populates in the Google Sheet. Um, and then Antarang responds to those questions and sends the responses um, back to the student centrally. Chat GPT integration is active. We're working on this with the apprentice project, and soon kind of it will be out to all of you. So that's very, very cool. And there's a blog about it. You can check it out. KP, if you can put the link in the chat box. And we are also developing a ticketing system with Bharat Rohan. And that will also soon be out to you all, right? So you can create tickets on your central system on kind of who's any task that need to be done, right? You can track which tickets have been resolved, which haven't, when and how. So those are the announcements. KP, do you have anything?
Yeah. No, I don't have anything. I just want to check if anybody have any questions on the upcoming things. So like maybe like briefly we can cover it. We will anyways
Yeah.
do detailed webinars and demos on that. But before that, I just wanted to check if you have any initial questions.
Yeah. So we're at 11:30. So what I'm going to do is just launch the final poll. And if folks have questions on these upcoming features, we can take them by and by. So some folks, I mean, everyone, please fill up the feedback poll. And also like once like you can ask the questions on the side. That's no worries. I've launched the poll. Please fill up the feedback thing before you all drop off. And ask your questions about the new features now. KP, do you want to add anything about the new features in the meantime, or then any of the new updates in the meantime?
Yeah, I just like I have got some people like excited to know more about ChatGPT integration. So the way we are covering currently is we would be creating, like again, it wouldn't be exactly like the ChatGPT that you try, where like anybody like any question that is being asked is being answered by the bot, because currently in a lot of your cases the context is very important. So again, if like otherwise if there's no context, maybe for especially if your users are very young, they'll keep on asking the bot on the questions which might not be even relevant to your activity or your worksheets or even your course. So the way we are doing it currently with a tap is we would be adding knowledge base to the bot. So the knowledge base can be what exactly the program is about, what is the activity. Again, the transcripts of the videos are being added. And any question that is asked like in any language around those like topics, the bot will be currently responding. So that's all, like it's like in an initial phase where we are just piloting with. So we have done like a couple of tests with some of the tabs activities, and the results are satisfactory. We have also tried with our thing, our documentation. So this is how we are initially planning it. Later on, we might be developing on how do we want to make it more smarter by remembering the responses, answering it faster, or like answering it in a language which the users are more familiar with, etc. Any questions on this or any thoughts, I'll be happy to answer.
Yeah, I have actually I have a list of questions for this. So we are going to communicate regarding it. I am personally a very heavy user of ChatGPT. So yeah, so we were finding many use cases. We have already defined multiple use cases. The first is like creating a personal Bhumi chatbot, like which can actually explain our programs much better. Okay, that was one of our use case that we want to develop with Glyphic, which was in a plan. The only question that I have is, first of all, like I am a developer, so I know there are certain limitations with ChatGPT in terms of training data. So you cannot train a very big, long text of data, right? So, and for Bhumi, we have programs like we have, I don't know, like almost like hundreds of programs are there, and they have multiple parameters, multiple things. That is why we also wanted that ChatGPT solution in the first place. Is it a solvable problem according to you through
Like
ChatGPT?
again, Like not, I wouldn't say completely it will solve your problem, but some of it can be definitely handled. So Tushar, what we can do is maybe we can chat in detail on that, and we can also see like what are the parts that we can start with. I wouldn't say for
Correct.
every problem ChatGPT is the solution. There are certain limitations of it. There are certain things that we would have to take care of it. So maybe we can have a chat around it and then like see what is your initial use case, or how do we want to pilot it, etc.
Correct. Yeah, we'll have this discussion.
Sure. You
I'll
can
look
text
into it.
on Discord. We'll be happy to take it forward from there. Or you can write to me. I'll
Great,
just
great,
drop
great.
my email ID here. Yeah, you can just write to me so we can further take any questions. Again, we would be having a detailed webinar where we share about more details, how are we, like how we did with TAP and what were the results. So we'll be doing a demo very soon, like a webinar very soon. But meanwhile, if you have any questions, please feel free to share so that we can cover those aspects in the session as well.
Yeah, actually the questions are too many. I'll discuss in it's a webinar itself,
Sure,
or
please
maybe
do.
we can have it. Yeah,
Yeah,
one
please
consult.
write to me. We can set up a call and we can talk more.
Yes, fine.
Okay, great, Tushar. Okay, we are over time by 6 minutes. In case anybody have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us separately. Or like you can stay back. Yeah. Otherwise, we are good to complete the call. Thank you so
Thanks,
much for
everyone.
joining.
You can drop off if you want. If you have a question, Neha, I saw you unmute. You can stay on. You can stay on for another 5.
Yeah, I think I will. So I was just trying to figure out how we could use this new feature, right? So we have these different sort of activities that we'd want to send parents. Say some of them would want to use only would prefer getting audio notes from us, and some would prefer getting video explanations of what to do in our worksheet or a module or something like that, right? So we were just wondering whether we could use that new feature for that. Does that actually kind of make sense? Because we anyway would add, anyway, this would be driven by the teacher, right? We could just give access to one teacher per school. For example, I know we have too many schools, guys from KF, but just an example that I'm talking, I'm just talking about whatever comes at the top of my head. So if we could give maybe access to one teacher per school, and then they could just figure out which parent would prefer which mode of information, we could use this new feature then. Does that make sense? Did I understand it right?
I mean, you can put the control in the teacher's hand, but there are other ways to do this, right? Like at every stage, right? So this is you said they have different preferences in the way they're getting information, right? Some
Just an
audio, some.
example.
Yeah. So if the idea is that they have a different preference in the way they're getting information, then you'd structure the flow in such a way that you ask them, hey, how would you like to be told about the activity today, right? Because that and then there'll be 3 options: audio, video, text, right?